So thank you all today for joining another round of our faculty staff workshop series. Today I'm going to be talking to everyone about free speech and what that looks like in 2020. There has been a lot of changes in the last year, and we felt that this was an important topic to kind of update our campus community on some of those changes and how that's going to impact our campus. And how do we handle free speech as we get ready for another academic year. And so before I get started, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Joshua Neves. I am the Director of Student Engagement. And for those who do not work with our department regularly, these are some of the areas that our department consists of. And so as you can see, it's quite a bit. And even under some of those offices, there's even more to it. So if at any point in time, if you are ever interested in collaborating on an event or have questions or concerns pertaining to one of these areas, you're always more than welcome to reach out to us. We do our best to try to work with everyone, and student engagement looks different in every area, and but yet is now going to be more important than ever before for this upcoming academic year. One of the areas that is kind of not listed is kind of an invisible one, but it's policy. And so there are a lot of policies that we help, I hate to use the word reinforce, but we do review on a regular basis and provide support to some of those policies. And one of those is our free speech policy. And so that is the topic that I will be covering today. And so the goal, it is a pretty laid back, in my opinion, or I hope it is, presentation, but it is going to be focusing on these three areas. And so I'm going to be going through kind of the big impacts that we saw from Senate Bill 18 that resulted in college and universities in the state of Texas having to go back and review their free speech policies and make sure they are updated and compliant with the new Senate bill that was approved in 2019. Then I'm going to kind of transition to a little bit on how we here at UT Tyler can support free speech activities. And then at the end, I will make sure that individuals who are participating today or watching this recording know who to contact in the event that there's free speech questions or concerns. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Senate Bill 18. And so one of the big changes that we saw from Senate Bill 18 is it impacted outdoor spaces on college campuses greatly. And so some colleges and universities in the state of Texas were considered closed to the public. The only time that those individuals or members of that are not part of our campus community were permitted to be on campus is if they were invited or had official business to conduct. But with Senate Bill 18, that changed things a little bit. And so instead of being a closed campus, we are now more of a limited open/closed campus. And so what this means is that all individuals can come onto campus and participate or exercise their free speech. And they can do that any type of expressive activities. Of course, there are some parameters to that. And so Senate Bill 18 says it is up to the institutions to establish time, place, and manner. And so historically, before Senate Bill 18, we haven't really had any major problems here at UT Tyler as it pertains to free speech. And so now what this means is that anybody off the street can come onto our campus and exercise their free speech. They do not have to be invited. They do not have to reserve space. And they are allowed to come on within what I would consider reasonable timeframes and conduct those activities. Before I transition, I do want to address the manner aspect. There's kind of two to three different rules of thumb when it comes to manner. They cannot disrupt the classroom environment, and they cannot disrupt operations, and they cannot impede traffic of any kind, sidewalk or vehicle. And then they have to, they're still not allowed to solicit, you know, information such as they want to pass out brochures, contracts, things of that nature. They're not allowed to do that. It's simply coming onto campus and expressing free speech. And so it is allowed now for any individual. They do not have to be a faculty, staff, or student on campus in order to do that. Now, that only pertains to outdoor spaces. And so that's important to remember, because if we start seeing individuals who are not part of our campus community inside, then we still have the authority to remove them from the inside buildings if they are expressing free speech inside a building. And so we don't see this being an issue, period. But if there was ever a issue, we probably would see that in more of our high traffic areas, such as the University Center. Senate Bill 18 also focused on, you know, speakers and those invitations. This is really geared towards student organizations, in my opinion. You know, several years ago, there were a few situations across the nation where groups would invite what individuals may consider a controversial speaker, and some institutions declined those opportunities. And so it was, that's kind of addressing that type of situation. We as an institution, we are not allowed to regulate guest speakers based on the topic that they're presenting on, the opinions of that individual. We need to make sure that we're being fair and consistent across the board for all speakers who have been invited to our campus. It does address and it does require institutions to review their disciplinary sanctions and make sure that there are sanctions in place for individuals who do interfere with free speech activities. And so if a individual or student stopped another individual from being able to express their free speech, then it is our responsibility as an institution to make sure that we hold them accountable for those actions. It does also establish, it requires us to establish a grievance procedure. In the past, anytime that there was a free speech issue, it could have been, you know, rolled under a general grievance form, or it could have just been a phone call. But now we have a set procedure in place to where any individual can fill out a separate form specifically as it pertains to free speech activities. And that grievance procedure is up and running. It does also require institutions to educate individuals of our free speech policy, specifically for new students. And we will start seeing that as part of our new student orientation programs, where we kind of go over expectations as far as general conduct behavior, but also, hey, this is your time to be able to express your opinion, your ideas, and that is okay. And so we're going to start incorporating that. And then we're also going to take this on kind of a next step further. And this presentation is a good example of that. But we're going to consistently try our best to educate and remind the campus community, not just students, about free speech, and continue to push for fostering an environment where free speech is welcome and supported. And then the last one, the big one, is making sure that we are being, once again, fair and consistent to all student organizations, that we're not denying benefits to student organizations because of their beliefs or opinions or their free speech actions. And then also that we're not denying groups in general from being a registered student organization because of those same principles as well, making sure that the same rules apply across the board, regardless of opinion on that. So naturally, when this bill came out, there was kind of a knee-jerk reaction in the state, and there was a lot of confusion on why this was needed. There was a lot of uncertainty at the time. And I think the initial thought was that we were going to see situations like this where we're going to have now people coming on the campus yelling at students and kind of creating a hostile environment. But in reality, this is probably what we're going to kind of see a little bit more. We may see individuals who may not be a part of our campus community come onto campus and express what they believe in, or an idea, or a thought, or an event that's coming up, and that is okay. And so that is kind of the point of it. The reality is that we are going to be an outdoor open campus, and I think we are prepared for that. As I mentioned earlier, UT Tyler has historically not had any issues with free speech, and I think we have done a really good job, especially in the UT system, being that example of how we have supported our students and even our community members to being able to come onto campus and interact with our students. And so we hope that, as we continue to move forward with some of these changes, that we will continue to see students, interacting with one another from different backgrounds, different beliefs, that they will hopefully, like on the bottom right photo, have more groups on campus, being present and being out and about. I know with our current environment right now, with the coronavirus, that we may not see a lot of the activities on the bottom right, but we hope once we get through this that we will hopefully go back to a sense of normalcy, and that students will feel welcome and encouraged to be outside, such as that bottom right, and trying to engage students with one another. So here, at UT Tyler, I think the common question, when I talk to individuals about free speech, it is, well, what can we do to help foster an environment where free speech is welcome? I've always been a believer, and my staff has told me on several occasions, and it's something I learned in grad school, that higher education is the marketplace of ideas, and that the exchange of those ideas plays a very important role in the holistic development of our students. We want our students to be engaged. We want them to be involved. We want them to be exposed to different opinions, thoughts, and ideas. And some of the best ways for that to happen is if we foster an environment where free speech is supported and is allowed to happen. And so it's important that we, as a community, that we're not afraid of free speech, but welcome free speech. And so some ways, that the first thing I always remind students is, if you are going to express your free speech or express an idea, do it peacefully. Encourage those, a constructive dialogue with another individual who may have a different thought process or a different opinion than you, and learn from them. It's a great learning opportunity. Don't automatically resort to violence or negativity or disagreement. Take the opportunity to learn more about why the individual feels the way they do, and push their way of thinking. Obviously, the second bullet point is an easy one for us to tell students, is like, if it's something that you're not interested in, or feel that you may not participate responsibly, ignore the activity. If you're not interested in the activity, just walk away. No one is forcing you to participate in the other individual's free speech. There's always a choice, and it's important that students make responsible choices. But ultimately, as I mentioned in the first bullet point, we want to push our students to grow. And so it is okay to listen to another individual and ask those questions. For faculty and staff, I think this is really important, not just for faculty and staff, but also student organizations. But if you're going to do outdoor activities, and you are worried about a space being occupied because of free speech, or maybe you want to host a free speech activity, you can reserve space. That is a benefit to student organizations. And then as faculty and staff, we also have that ability as well to reserve space. And so the new Senate bill that was passed doesn't mean that our events and reservations do not matter. It actually means that if we do have the space reserved, that takes precedent first. And so if you are worried about your space not being available, then I always encourage groups to book your space, and that guarantees you that you can host your event there. Now, if there's something, we have seen a lot in the last several months in our nation, and if it's something that even if you have the space reserved, but you still are worried about free speech activities disrupting your event or operations, then that is a benefit of booking your event in advance and space in advance, is it gives us opportunity to work with the host to coordinate on how we can help support the event. And as I mentioned earlier, is if the event or operations is being impacted negatively, then we have the ability to help work with the individuals who are being disruptive and either encourage them to go to another spot or remove them altogether. But ultimately, we don't feel that this is going to be a problem on our campus, but the policies have been updated to make sure that we are still supportive of our groups that are doing events and hosting activities and spaces on our campus. As I mentioned, free speech activities cannot disrupt classrooms or operations or impede traffic. Those are kind of the two big ones that we will remind off-campus members as they come onto campus, is to make sure that they're not doing those two things. And if they are, then we will ask them to leave. And then as faculty and staff members, if you see anything or any type of activity that may violate federal, state, or local law, or it's a free speech concern that, you know what, this might violate our free speech policies, then we encourage you to report that. And it will go to several different areas who I will cover in a few minutes, and we will take a look at that report. And depending on the actions that are going on, we will immediately address it, or we will go through the process that's in place and address it that way as well. All right, so the policies, and so this is important because we have spent a good part of the spring semester reviewing all of our policies as it pertains to free speech and making sure that they are updated. But these are the three policies as it pertains to free speech. And as you can see, there's one on every level. UT System, the Regents Rule 40501. And then we have the HOP 2.71. And the HOP also points to the MOP, which is our student policies, which is Chapter 6. And Chapter 6 is very lengthy, and it covers a lot of different scenarios as it pertains to free speech. So it covers, flyers, exhibits, bulletin boards, amplified sound. The amplified sound is something that we did update. That was an important one. And then just speech activities, and it also explains how individuals can report any issues as it pertains to free speech. And then ultimately, if you're really curious about what the law says as it pertains to free speech, the most recent update that was passed in 2019, we encourage you to go check out Senate Bill 18. Senate Bill 18 really breaks down all the requirements that are expected of institutions of higher education to have in place in order to support free speech activities. As far as contacts, as I mentioned, these are the individuals who you can contact, or the areas you can contact if there are any concerns, questions. Definitely we've always been the department. If there's a lot of noises going on outside, we are typically contacted to go check it out. If students are being loud, we make sure that they are abiding by the amplified sound policy. or we ask them to kindly turn it down a little bit. But we will also still continue to be the area that if there are concerns with free speech, we want to definitely help support and educate students on how to responsibly participate in free speech. Our chief of police, he is going to be a good resource as well if there are major issues. Obviously, if it's an issue that requires immediate attention, please call the police department immediately or 911. And then our Dean of Students as well. The Dean of Students office will also be available to help support any questions or concerns regarding free speech. And then our grievance form, as I mentioned earlier, it was not only a requirement from Senate Bill 18, but I wanted to provide the link, and the QR code also will take you to the grievance form as well. And so if you happen to be watching this on a laptop or PC, you can use your mobile device to scan this QR code, and that way you can save that link that gets pulled up in case that there are any issues in the future pertaining to free speech. You can fill out this form and we will respond. I do also want to mention back on the policies, you know, as we were creating updating the policies, we realized that there was a lot of back and forth that points to each other or points to a different section. And so what we are doing right now to kind of help make it easy for our campus community to understand the impacts of free speech and some of the changes, we are creating a website, and we hope to have that launched really soon, where faculty and staff and even students can go to one spot and see all the information they need to know as it pertains to free speech. And so be on the lookout for that email. I know everybody loves receiving faculty and staff emails, but this is going to be an important one to remember in case there are free speech questions. All right, so now I know I've done most of the talking, but I want to give everyone else the opportunity. If there are any questions, now is the time that you can ask away. And for those who are watching the recording, you can also send your questions to getconnected@uttyler.edu. So at this time, are there any questions? Let's see, I might have to stop share. Let's see.
Doesn't look like it, Josh.
All
Everybody's just saying
right.
thank you.
This is a good group. All right, y'all. Well, I want y'all to know that, thank you, Brenda. I want y'all to know that, you know, we are hoping that we can try to have some normalcy this fall semester as it pertains to tabling. That is a common question that we are getting from our student organizations and some community members as well. Can they come table? And we are still working on that. We want to make sure that right now that students are safe and that we can support the start of the fall semester. But once we get going, we're pretty confident that we'll start seeing more activities outdoors for students to be able to table and to express their free speech and to really encourage others to get involved in what they're trying to promote. And so if you see that, feel free to support them, check it out, and then if you do see any issues, do not hesitate to contact our office, and we will go check it out to make sure that things are being followed appropriately. And so I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much for participating in this workshop series. And I do have to read this good comment because we're going to start seeing more of this, but Talons Up, Mask Up. And so that is a good rule to live by right now as we want to help encourage our students to make responsible choices. And that is one as well. So you're more than welcome to stay behind in case you have a specific question for me. Otherwise, this workshop is officially over.